I'm the Reverend Debra Peevey. Whew. How did it all begin? I went to seminary out. I went through my entire ordination process out, and I became the first ordained clergy person in my denomination to be out, and I was the only one for 15 years. Staying positive for those first 15 years, boy, that took quite a bit of determination on my part, because there were definitely rough, not only days, but patches, times. But I really sat down on my couch one day in my office at the church, and I had this conversation with God and said, if you want me to do this, the only thing I can understand is that you do want me to do this, so I'm all in. Having the opportunity at the end of my career to work for one community was truly the best gift I could have been given. Being positive is in the DNA of one community, and I had, over the years, I can confess, waned in my positivity about the work that I'd been doing for 4 decades. But meeting Angela and the whole team at one community just reignited that sense of our opportunity to tell our stories and to help people understand that if you know us, you will learn to love us. You know, I didn't grow up in the church. I had a mom who's a scientist, she still is, and the church had never been meaningful for her. But her mom, my grandmother, she definitely whispered in my ear. And she didn't only whisper in my ear, she whispered in my mother's ear. And so when I was born, 6 months later, I was baptized in her church, in my grandparents' church, First Presbyterian Church of Yuma, Arizona. And both of my grandparents were elders there, and I'm proud to say that my grandmother was the first woman elder at First Presbyterian Church in Yuma. I was always hungry to know God. And I felt this opportunity arise in my life in the most unexpected way, which was when I was accepted to the University of California at Berkeley. As part of my registration packet, they sent an optional religious preference card. And I filled it out. And I wrote Christian on it because I'd been baptized in my grandmother's church. And so that card got sent to University Christian Church Disciples of Christ. And I was really one of the first college students who they had received my name in over 10 years. They were glad to have me, and I was glad they wanted me. And I had this wonderful experience of feeling like I belonged. Being from Southern California and being a volleyball player, they put me on the varsity volleyball team at Cal right when I got there. And wouldn't you know it, but Title IX went into play then. When the story of Title IX needed to be told, a guy at my church was a sports photographer. And so he asked me if he could take a picture of me. And so I became one of the poster girls for Title IX. So when you go to seminary, you meet with a commission, a group of people from your own denomination. In the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, that's called the Commission on the Ministry. Usually that process is just a huge celebration. It takes about 1 meeting with the board. Well, with me, because of my sexual orientation, it took 10 meetings. But at the final one, they voted yes, and we proceeded to my ordination. And it was an amazing day. Do I have any favorite scriptures? You ask a preacher that, you're opening yourself right on up. You know, really, I would say there are 2 that have stayed steadfastly my truth and my support throughout the last 40 years of ministry. Most people know Micah 6:8, but they don't really know where that scripture, that chapter of scripture begins. And it begins with God being very angry with the people and having a controversy and a sense of wanting to contend with the people. And so the prophet intervenes and says, What shall I do to come before you, bowing before you? Shall I bring a ram? Shall I bring oil? Shall I offer you a burnt offering? Shall I bring you 1,000 rams, a river of oil? And out of the silence of that invocation of forgiveness from God, the prophet says, you have heard what is required of you, to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with God. And that has been my goal. It's been a carrot and a stick for me. And the other passage that sort of lended urgency for me was from Psalm 27. I believe that I shall see the glory of God in the land of the living. Oh gosh, I have seen moments of it and experienced them in my body and experienced them in transformative moments in ministry. And I have been determined that it's about here, now, this moment, this time, this place, this group of people, not some far off time in the future, but now. And I've always had that urgency about me. So they fit together really well, these two passages, and they never let me go. You know, my first ally was my sister. And allies have such an important role to play. Because it's not their heart and their body that's on the line in the same way as it is when you actually are LGBT and you hear the things that people say and you watch how they're willing to treat us. So yeah, there's a huge amount of space and need for allies today who can stand with us, speak out, tell their stories about how our lives intersecting with them has changed their life. And every single story I've ever heard, and I've been blessed to hear thousands of those stories over 4 decades, it's changed their life for the better. Why has it been so important to be out? When I was in seminary, Harvey Milk was still alive. And I was there in the crowd when he said, "Come out." He gave his whole life for that. And his life and his death, they inspired me to come out, to tell our stories, to stand up, to speak out, to give people the chance to know who we are, because that's the only thing that's going to change them. And that was certainly true in the 1970s. And it's still true today. And so I guess I'd want to say what Harvey Milk said to me. Well, not just to me, of course, but to all of us. I'm here to recruit you. Stand up, speak out, tell your truth, make it known who you are so that you can be loved for who you are and you can change the world and make it the place that it ought to be. And this is the time.